Welcome back to Serenity Cove Crafts. I'm here today to teach you how to make ringlets out of a flat panel. Now, I know personally when I was learning how to use the Sentro, it took forever for me to attempt to even try to learn how to make a flat panel. Now, this is my 48-pin Sentro knitting machine. Now, if you look over, where is it? Oh, over here on the side, you will see that there's a switch. T is for tube. Now, tube is when you're knitting in the round. So you're doing a continuous circle and you'll end up with a tube. Panel, on the other hand, is when you start at one end and then your machine will stop before it comes back to that end and you're just going back and forth. Now, for my purposes here, goodness, got a good stick here. All right, for my purposes today, I'm just going to keep it on tube. I just leave it on tube. I prefer leaving it on tube when I'm working on a panel like this. Now, a ringlet is an easy project to learn how to use panels. Now, with a ringlet, they're so versatile. We can use them on, for example, the manes of a stuffed animal, a horse, or a unicorn. They could also be used as hair for dolls. So without further ado, I'm going to start casting on. So what I'm going to do like I normally do, come back up to this very first pin. Now I'm going to be knitting on 5 stitches only. So I'm going to be doing pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we're going to cast on the way we normally would. Put your yarn under that first hook. Turn the lever. So in front of the first hook, behind the second, in front of the third, behind the fourth, and in front of the fifth. Now, at this point, what we're going to do is we are going to, sorry, I don't want my arm in the way, insert the yarn into the yarn feeder. I don't usually put it into the tension holder. I just hold the yarn in my hand loosely. Now, the important thing about panel knitting, you want to continue cranking in this same direction. We need this piece of yarn right here to go under this pink bar. So we're just cranking until we're going to see the yarn here. There it goes. It just went under this bar. Now it's secure. So now we are going to go back in the other direction. All right. So then that was our pin number 5. And number 4, number 3, number 2, and number 1. Now, it's very important to go slow for the first several rounds. And you want to ensure that you kind of hold on to this cast on yarn piece. We want to ensure that the yarn goes under that first pin. Now it has to do the exact same thing it did over here. We need it to go under this bar. So we're just going to keep cranking until it goes under this end piece. Now we're just going to go back in the other direction. And you just really have to keep an eye on your very first few rows, just to make sure the pins that are going to act up are usually the first one and the last one. So we just need to keep an eye on that. It's behaving properly. The yarn is falling down. The yarn's going under. There's 2, there's 3, there's 4. Now, your last pin is going to have a tendency to get caught on the needle like this. So what we just want to do is make sure that it goes down. Right? So it's down. And now we can keep cranking. And we want to go behind this pink bar again. There it goes. There. It just caught. Now we can go back in the other direction. And see the same thing with the first pin. Just want to make sure that this yarn goes down here. We want to give a slight tug onto the end here. We're going to keep going. We need it to catch behind underneath here. Okay, so we're going to catch under that bar. Now we're going to go back in the other direction. Just keeping an eye on the first and last pin, especially when you're just starting. Okay. The last pin is actually behaving. It's actually dropped down now, so it shouldn't be giving me too much more problems. Okay, so under the pink bar, and then back in the other direction. And under that pink bar. Now we're going back. Now I do like to occasionally just tug on the yarn end here, just to make sure it's nice and secure. All right, it's catching under. The other direction. Here we go. Catches under. So when you're first starting out, you want to go nice and slow. When I learned how to do this, I was actually quite surprised at how uncomplicated and unscary it was. This is a perfect way to learn how to do panels, because at the end we're going to end up with a ringlet. Now when you're counting, you don't pay attention to your row counter here because you're going back and forth and it's just not going to activate the counter. So basically you're counting. Each time you make a pass, that's one row. Okay, we're going back. That's another row. Okay. Personally, when I am making ringlets for my dolls, I don't even bother counting rows. I just go until the end piece here touches the bottom and maybe starts to curl. And then that's how I gauge how long I want the ringlet to be. Okay, so I'm going back in this direction. Now, I'm just going to pause the video right now for you. I'm going to keep knitting until I get as long as I want to get, and then I'll come back and show you how to cast off on this and how to make a ringlet. All right, so I'm just finishing up a couple more rows. Now, when I cast off, I like to make sure that my work is on this side of the yarn feeder. So I'm just going to do my last crank to get it back over. All right, and once we're here, the yarn goes under this pink bar. I am going to cut a piece of yarn. It doesn't have to be very long because our cast off isn't going to be complicated at all. Actually, sorry, let me turn my machine back. I find personally when I'm doing it, once I get past the difficult parts and my stitches aren't catching anymore, I personally like to turn my machine a little sideways. So I'm coming back straight on here, and I am threading this needle. Okay. Now, what we want to do is, actually when you're knitting as well, you just want to keep track. Just make sure that you still have 5 stitches. It's easy sometimes to go farther and end up casting on an extra stitch, but that's fine. So what we want to do is, this is our last stitch, stitch number 5. We're going to remove the thread. We're going to pull it out from under this hook. And I'm going to start cranking to go back in that direction. Okay, release it from under that hook. So now we just kind of hold it in the middle. You put it down if you'd like. We're just going to keep cranking without any yarn until we get over here. Right. Now we pick up our needle and we go to the very last, I'll remove my machine here, go to the stitch number 5 here and just pick it off. And then stitch number 4, and then number 3, and then number 2, and 1. And there we have it. Now I'm just going to move the machine here. Actually, when I need this thing to stick, the suction cups to stick, it doesn't want to stick. But now it's not cooperating. It's just sticking like crazy. Okay, so now what we'd like to do is just take your needle out. We're just going to pull the end. Now this also is a way of making an I-cord, with 5 stitches if you don't have an I-cord machine. We're going to pull. I'm going to pull real good here. And look at that. Got yourself an I-cord. Okay. And just a side note, you can also do the ringlets with an I-cord as well. You make a nice long I-cord, and then the rest of the technique is going to be the same. So I've pulled this. What I'm going to do is on the one end here, I'm just going to cut it down a little shorter so it doesn't drive me crazy. Now, with one hand, I'm going to grip the end, the one end. And with the other hand, I'm going to tightly grip the other end. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to start twisting. Okay, with this hand, you can't really see me. I am twisting. This hand is just holding it straight. It's not moving. It's just, I've got a little death grip right here. I'm not letting this go. And with this hand, I am twisting. And I will let you know that I have a tendency of going too fast, and this hand always drops it. So then I have to start over. So if that happens to you, it happens. I'm going to start over. And some people count how much they twist. I don't. I personally like to twist it until I've got quite a bit of twist going on here. Now I'm going to put these two ends together. Right here. And I'm going to take this yarn piece and I'm going to pull it. And then we're going to let it go. Boing, look at that. We have a perfect ringlet. Now what we want to do is tie. We're going to tie the end here. And this is going to be pretty secure. It's not going to come undone. Unless someone takes scissors to it. Now, with this little end piece here, I'm just going to insert my needle into my work. I'm going to take this small yarn piece, this yarn tail, and I'm just going to pull it through into the work to hide it. There we go. It is hidden now. So now I'm just going to show you how I would attach this to, let's say, my doll head. Now here I'm in the process of making a teddy bear. I'm not going to be putting hair on my teddy bear, but I'm just using it because it's the only head I have made up right now. So we're going to thread the remaining end into our needle. Right. Now we're just going to figure out where we would like this to go. I'll just kind of put my first one here. Now, when I'm doing a doll, I tend to put maybe about, like a little girl doll, I might make about 25 of these, just so I have the whole head covered. But that could be a little bit of overkill on my behalf. If you don't mind your little doll having bald spots, make less, that's fine. We don't all have perfect heads of hair. Okay, so I'm just going to line it up where I want it. I'm just going to pick a couple of stitches here with my needle. And I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to go into the one end and make sure I go in to the other piece of the tube right here. So I'm going through, pull this through, there we go. And I'm going to grab a couple of stitches, right here, on this side, right? Now I'm going to go back through, these two ends here, and then back through here. Couple of stitches. Okay. And to make sure it's really secure, you can just go back through 1/3 time. Right? And then I like to tie it off. Just take a little bit little bit of yarn of one of these stitches here. I just kind of wrap my needle, wrap the yarn around my needle, and then I pull it through. Right, and there we go, we've got a knot. And then you would hide your tail in through the head, pull it out, cut it, and there you go. Now you've started putting hair on your doll. So if you've enjoyed this tutorial, please hit that like button and subscribe. And I'm going to continue bringing you some unique tutorial and content. Thank you very much for joining me. Goodbye.